Hey guys, today I want to talk about the biggest differences between the US and the Philippines as far as things that you're going to be dealing with over here. You know, one of the biggest differences here is the hospitals, okay? We talk often about the hospitals, the insurance, and the way things work as far as that goes. I'm going to dig a little bit into that, but we're also going to talk about a lot of other differences here, and you're going to find out what they all are. The biggest one in the hospitals is this. When you walk into a hospital, you have to have insurance. Or you have to have the money to put down sometimes. They might even ask you for money up front in some of the private hospitals. Most of the hospitals here, they want you to be able to show that you're going to be able to pay to leave that hospital, or they're not going to let you leave the hospital. And it's illegal for them to hold you in that hospital, believe it or not. But you need to deal with them before you leave. And what they'll do is, they'll if you have stuff in a room or something, some of your belongings or what have you, and you get up to go leave, let's say to leave the room to go downstairs or something like that, they might lock that door or something, and I've heard this happen. Okay, they might lock that door until you pay the bill. You know, they're gonna say, all right, you need to pay the bill. And it might be that all your cards and stuff are in that room. This happens all the time here. I've heard this happen. Some guy down in Davao told me about this. This was about 2 years ago. This gentleman told me, he says he went into a hospital. He went down to partially pay them because he was gonna pay the rest later. Because he went down to partially pay him, they signaled the security guard to go up and lock the door on him. So I was like, wow, you know, that's crazy. So he didn't tell me how he resolved it after that, but it did get resolved. I guess he had to sign some sort of paper before he left there saying he was going to pay the rest of it. I've had problems before, and I've talked about this before. You guys have heard me talk about it, where I wanted to go out to the ATM. I tried paying with a credit card. They said the credit thing was broken. I says, well, then I need to go out to the ATM. They says, well, you're gonna have to send your girlfriend to do it. I says, no, I'm not. I'm gonna go myself because I'm not. You know, like they wanted it. And not that I didn't trust my girlfriend. I just wanted to pay myself. I wanted to do it myself. You know, it had nothing to do with my girlfriend. It was the point. You know, I wanted to make the point to them that, you know, I need to get to the ATM. You need to let me go. Okay, I'll be back. You know, you have my information. You know, if you want to file charges because I skipped out, then go ahead. But I mean, I'm just going to the ATM. I'm going to be right back. And I told them that. You know, but these are the differences here. And also the thing is that when you, whenever you leave a hospital, they're going to try to get the full amount out of you. And if you die, you know what? If you die in one of the hospitals here, your insurance has to pay that, or you have to be able to pay that bill before they'll release the body sometimes. In many cases, that's what they do. I've seen stuff like this happen here before. It's terrible. It's part of, like I said, the wonkiness of the Philippines. We often say that word over and over because it really is the wonkiness of the Philippines. Some expats say, well, I don't care what happens to my body, I'm dead. Well, you know what? You don't want to leave your family thinking that your body was mishandled or anything like that. And it's kind of upsetting to a family, especially if you have family over here, that your body was mishandled, okay? And you don't want to leave that mark on your family that your body was mishandled, or your family back home. If somebody calls back your brother or your sister or your, you know, whoever it may be back home, or your kids or what have you, that your body was kind of left on a table for 15 days. And they don't use refrigeration in most of the places here, so it's going to deteriorate pretty fast. And the next thing I wanted to get into is traveling around here. Traveling on jeepneys, tricycles, buses, vans, you know, all of them are a lot different than back home. It's a different style of traveling over here. Tricycles I use every day for local use, for going just around town pretty much, okay? And some towns are really big. General Trias is a big town. You really can't go every place on a tricycle there. You really need to get on a jeepney. In some cases, maybe a van or a bus to travel places, okay? Buses are great. They're air conditioned, they're cheap. I can travel a 1 hour ride up to Manila, usually 1 hour, 20 minutes or so, up to Manila on a bus, and it's really cheap. I'm not sure what the cost was, but I'll say it's excessively cheap for an expat, okay? And also for the vans going to Alabang, an hour away, air-conditioned van in comfort. It cost about $3. $3. How can you beat that? You can't beat that. And what I do sometimes, because I like to have a little bit, I like to put my leg up on the seat next to me. What I'll do is I'll pay extra for the seat next to me, and that'll be my seat. I can put my bag there and I can put my leg up, and it makes it extra comfortable for me to do that. And these are some of the things, the differences between back home and here. Could you do that on a bus back home in the United States? You probably could if you asked, but I'm not sure if they would sell you an empty seat next to you empty. But it's something that's quite common over here in the Philippines, where you can put your bag down, you have that extra seat, you have that extra comfort, and it's great for people that are a little bit extra wide, like us Americans are a little bit wider than most Filipinas. You could probably fit almost 2 Filipinas because they're so thin in a seat where a regular expat sits. It's just the truth of the matter. It's just part of the way it is here. And they tend to squeeze a lot of people in. That's the thing too. Now jeepneys are hot. They're stuffy. They're kind of interesting to ride on. If they're not moving along, it's hot. It gets hot in them, especially during the rainy season. You got that mugginess, that moist air around you. You're sweating. You get out, you're soaked with sweat and from the moisture. You can see my shirt. It's very moist in the air here today because it's been raining a lot here. And that's another thing here is also the weather. The weather here, it's a lot different than back home, because you got 365 days of hotness most of the time, and it's hot, it's muggy. If it's not hot, it's muggy, okay? Now, I'm here in the park, I'm sweating, okay? It's not particularly hot, it's just that it's so humid here. It feels like it's 100 degrees, but it's really not. It's actually kind of cool down here. I'm walking, I can feel the cool air. I'm not sure what the temperature is. I'm walking in the lower part of the park where it's usually cooler. Now, I just ordered a thing through the mail. It's coming from Lazada. They have these air conditioners that fit around your neck. It's not a fan. It's not a fan. It uses some sort of conduction thing where it conducts the heat away from you and throws it on the outside. And then it's got fans too. And it's like an air conditioner kind of. And it cools the air. And I'm gonna show you guys that when I get it. It's going to be an interesting thing to see, because I think you guys will enjoy that. I want to show you guys that because I know it's something that most people need over here, and I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised by it when you see it. Because when I get it, I'm gonna take it here, okay, and I'm gonna try it out here and see how it works. I'm gonna put it to the true test over here, and you'll see me walking around with it, and I'll tell you over the course of a week how well it works on a muggy day or a dry day or whatever. I think it's going to work fine. I've heard some other people that use them. I bought one of these things a long time ago. It was a little bit different than the one I'm ordered. It had something different. It was using evaporative cooling versus this type of cooling, okay? This type of cooling is way better. The other one I bought from Sharper Image, it did cool the air a little bit, but it wasn't the greatest. It was okay. It was mostly for dry conditions. I sent it to a friend of mine who was over in Iraq, and he said it worked great. He said it worked for about 2 hours, then he had to charge it up again, and then he'd have to wet this thing, and he says it worked pretty good, and he says the fan on it was fantastic. He liked it. He enjoyed it. Also, I want to talk a little bit about this. Food. Lately, this is the difference between the United States and here. Food. Food over here is a lot different than back in the States. When you go shopping here, Western goods are not readily available all the time in most of the shopping centers, most of the stores, most of the SM stores. Do they have them? Yes. But it's a little bit different. They're made over here, or they're made in Australia, or made in New Zealand. Some of them do come from the US. But they taste different. They have a different flavor to them. It's not always the same. Meat pretty much tastes the same if you get good meat from a good place that comes from the US, and you cook it over a grill. The key is cooking it over a grill. Also chicken, cooking on a grill. Use sauces. You can get hickory barbecue sauce. You can get Baby Ray's barbecue sauce over here. Great sauces to use. And you can kind of have that American flavor to your foods. over here. But when you're over here, guys, things are always going to be different. Expect it. Don't expect this to be your United States. It's never going to be the United States. Most people that are coming here, they're coming to get away from things. But you know something? You are going to run into different problems here. And they can become big for some people. And you got to kind of learn to deal with those problems here too. We all have our problems here. All of us expats. Nobody's 100% happy here. I can honestly tell you that. Almost all the expats that I say over here, they like it better over here. But most of it is because of cost. And that's the big thing. Now, I'm going to get into that a little bit today. We're going to drag this video out a little bit longer than normal because of this here. I want to get into cost about things. Over here, a lot of people think that because I live in an $80 or somebody lives in a $100 or $160 or $140 apartment that it's a dump. And nothing could be further from the truth if you fix the place up a little bit and put a little money in it. Put a Western toilet in there with a flush tank, because most of the bathrooms over here don't have a flush tank. Okay, most of the bathrooms, unless you go into like a store or something like that, and even then, sometimes they don't have that. They have a bucket there with water in it, and you got to pour it in the toilet to flush the toilet. Well, that's one of the things over here you can change. It costs $100 for a toilet over here, so you can get yourself into a nice apartment like the ones that I've showed before. For $80 or $100 a month. And guess what? You're going to get yourself a beautiful place. You paint it up, you fix it up. Some of these places are brand new when you get them. You only need a place to sleep, to go on your computer and sit and eat your food or whatever, and maybe sit with your girlfriend and watch TV or something like that. You really don't need a big place. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to live in a closet. I mean, I'm a former submariner, so I'm used to small, confined spaces. But I don't consider my house small by any means. To me, it's actually kind of decent sized. I've seen other one-bedroom apartments over here that are half the size of my apartment. Half. So, I mean, put that into perspective. The other thing is, if you're looking for a decent place, and, back in the States, you'd pay $1,200 for, $1,500, $1,600. Guess what? Over here, you can get that for like about $400. You can get a 4-bedroom place over here for as little as $500. 4 bedrooms. If you search around and look, you can get a 4-bedroom home over here. These are the differences between the U.S. and here. Now, food prices are pretty much the same as back in the States. In some cases, it's more. Some cases, it's less. But it all balances out to basically the same. I'll say that right now. Unless you're living in the provinces, where you're living off of chickens from the farm, things like that. That's a different lifestyle. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the average person here that's an expat does not go out to the provinces to live. The average expat stays close to a town or lives in a town or a city where it's halfway decent and has some Western goods and usually has stores around and at least a decent hospital. Most expats live fairly close to kind of at least most of that. I live close to almost all of it, okay? Now that's the part that you need to look at, and you need to say, hey, okay, when I was back in the States, everything was close. Also you want to make sure that your insurance over here, if you have an insurance card that's going to cover you, like let's say a Pacific Cross or whatever, that the hospital near you accepts that, okay? And that way there, they pay them, and you can have them call, or you call before you go there, and say, hey, listen, I'm going to be checking in here. Can you give them authorization that you're going to pay or whatever? And that'll save you a lot of hassles when you get in there from them hitting you up for money or what have you. That's a problem, okay? You want to make sure that never happens to you, okay? You want to make sure that never happens to you. Now, guys, the other things that are different over here is this. When you go into places here, let's say a gym or something like that, if you want to find a good gym, you're going to pay for it, but you're going to get a good gym. There's a lot of gyms around here that are mediocre. I have one near me. It's a great gym. It's called Titan Fitness. It's in Tracy Martera. It's probably one of the better gyms in Cavite, for that matter. The guy that runs it and his girlfriend, great people. You couldn't ask for better people. They run a really good gym there, and you probably pay a little bit more, but something, you get what you pay for in the Philippines. And I rather, you know, I don't go to the gym much because I like to go out and walk. But it's a great gym. A lot of the expats that I know that go there, that I've sent there, love it. They think it's a really phenomenal gym. And it's a place that I push all the time for people because it is a great place. But anyway, guys, I want to throw that out there about, you know, the difference between here and the US. And just to let you guys know the main differences. One other thing I want to mention is insurance costs. You get what you pay for, okay? But there are some cheap insurances out there. And a lot of guys have pre-existing conditions. If you have pre-existing conditions, let me tell you something. You want to make sure that you're going to be covered for those pre-existing conditions. And you're probably going to get charged more for those too. So your insurance is going to probably go up a little bit. And they can drop you later if they want to. Be aware of that. So it may force you to go back to the States or to get a different insurance. So be very careful. Be very careful, you know. The insurance companies can be very, very wonky over here. There's a lot of good insurance companies like Cigna, Pacific Cross. You can call it Pacific Prime, which is not an insurance company, but a brokerage firm. And then they'll give you 10 different quotes. And it's a great company to work with too. I like Pacific Prime. I like Pacific Cross. Pacific Prime, you know, when they give you 10 quotes, that's awesome. You know, because and you can tell them exactly what you're looking for. How much, $250,000 is usually a decent amount of coverage for you. If you want to get $1 million worth of coverage, you're going to pay more. You're going to pay a lot. And you want to be careful about that, because let me tell you something. You want to make sure that they're going to pay the hospital. You want to make sure that they're going to pay directly. And if they don't pay directly, you may want to start looking for a better insurance. So be aware of all this stuff. This isn't the US. And even back in the US, we have problems with insurance. And I just want to put out these differences. But I will say this. Insurance over here is way cheaper than back home. And you can get decent insurance over here for somebody my age, almost 60 years old, for like anywhere between $1,200 to $5,000. And you can usually get decent insurance for that. And you know, like I said, sometimes you get what you pay for. Make sure that you get exactly what you need. Anyway, guys, God bless. Take care.